Hello and welcome to the Feeling Good podcast. I am your host, Fabrice Nye, and joining me here in the Murrieta studios is Dr. David Burns. Hi, David.
Hi, Fabrice.
Dr. David Burns has been a pioneer in the development of cognitive therapy, and he is the creator of the new team therapy. He is the author of Feeling Good, which has sold over 5 million copies in the United States and has been translated into over 20 languages. He is an emeritus adjunct clinical professor of psychiatry at the Stanford University School of Medicine. Welcome to episode 88 of the Feeling Good podcast. And back again with the Tuesday group. We can't get enough of these guys. We are going to do a little bit more Fiat Fantasy as a role play tonight. David wanted to bring in some added elements. So tonight with us we have two wonderful volunteers, Alicia. Hi, Alicia.
Hello.
And Werner. Hi, Werner.
Hi.
David, I think that besides doing the Fiat Fantasy roleplay, you wanted to maybe bring in some downward arrow, which we've talked about in previous episodes. And also something that intrigues me a little bit because I'm going to discover this technique with our listeners, which is the anti-brush fire technique. And I don't know if we've even talked about the brush fire fallacy, but
No, and I've never written it up either. It's just a technique I've used a lot from time to time in my practice, particularly for people who fear disapproval.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of beliefs that go into social anxiety.
Yeah.
One of them is called the spotlight fallacy, and one is called the brush fire fallacy. And the spotlight.
What was the first one?
The spotlight fallacy. And these are two beliefs that almost all shy people have. And tonight we'll be working on social anxiety.
Yeah.
But the socially anxious or shy person has the belief that in a social situation I've got to impress people. Like I'm a performer in the spotlight, and to get people to like me, I've got to, dance and impress them. And so they get into like a cocktail party or something like that, or in a gathering of people, and you're feeling all nervous and insecure, and you're telling yourself, oh, I've got to impress this person, and I've got to think of something clever to say, but they probably don't like me, and they probably won't be interested in what I have to say. And so you're trying to cook up something while the other person is talking. Say the other person is talking about their son was just accepted to Berkeley and, wants to major in physics or something. And I'm thinking of something to impress you. And then when you're done, I don't even have any idea what you just said because I'd been thinking about my response. And so I speak something totally irrelevant. I have cooked up this little impressive story. And then the person's thinking, gosh, David didn't seem to notice what I was talking about my son. And so they try again to say something. And again, I'm all nervous and trying to cook up some clever thing to impress the person. And again, I don't connect with what they say.
Yeah.
And then they're thinking, gosh, David's not a very good person to talk to. So they say, hey, I've got to go see Grace over on the other side of the room. And then I end up rejected, which is what I thought would happen. That's called the spotlight fallacy. And then the brush fire fallacy often goes hand in hand. And that's like disapproval will spread like brush fire. So it's very dangerous because all human beings are clones. They all think exactly alike. And I'm terribly important. And so this person who just rejected me will tell two others, oh, I was talking to David. He's so boring. And then they'll tell two others and it will spread but like brush fire. And, by morning, thousands of people on the San Francisco Bay Area will be aware of what a loser David is.
Yeah, I've noticed that many times.
So, yes, that's true, actually. And so the anti-brush fire technique is a way to demonstrate to someone who's afraid of rejection that this thing that you're afraid of, if one person disapproves of you, everyone will, that it's really, really not so true. So we'll see if we can squeeze that one in too.
So at the end of the Fiat Fantasy with Alicia, you're going to demonstrate the anti-brush fire technique, right?
Yeah.
And that'll be about halfway through our podcast, and then we'll move on to Werner.
Perfect.
I think most people in the Tuesday group have heard about those fallacies, but I didn't know about the technique. So
yeah. Now, let's start with you, Alicia, and I'm so grateful that you came in, particularly because you were a little nervous about being on the podcast. And we've had two groups here this is the free Stanford training group for Bay Area clinicians, mental health professionals, as well as graduate students in mental health can come forever if you want and get training and do personal work. And we've had so many new people. We split into two groups, the advanced and the newbie group. And Alicia has just finished her 12-week newbie training. And then next week, the newbies are going to merge with our advanced group. And you were saying that you were feeling very nervous and anxious and worried about going back into the advanced group next week. And you're feeling self-conscious, inferior, inadequate. And you had a number of negative thoughts that you wrote down, and these are very typical of most of the people who start out in this Tuesday training group. And you're telling yourself, I'm going to mess up. Thought number one. Number two, they'll think I didn't learn anything in the newbie group. In other words, the advanced people. I'll make a fool of myself. That's number three. Number four, I'll blush, and everyone will know, will think I don't know anything. Number five, David will think he wasted time with the people in the beginners group. And number six, I'm not advanced enough. And when those thoughts go through your mind, how valid do they seem between 0 and 100?
Very valid.
Very valid.
Yeah. Do you want me to go line by line?
No,
okay.
Just in general.
Like 90 to 100%, yeah.
Yeah, and then tell us about the feeling of anxiety and nervousness and inadequacy that you're struggling with.
Yeah, because this is the advanced group, right, that meets in this room. And so I'm just worried that, on the first day, so next week coming in, you're going to ask a question and call on me like you do,
Yeah.
And I won't know the answer. And then people will be like, what were they doing over there? They don't know anything.
Yeah.
Yes.
Beautiful. Now, usually when we work with somebody, I would empathize, do some measurements, spend some time empathizing, set the agenda. All of that would take probably about 45 minutes. And then we'd go into techniques. And if you go into techniques without doing those other steps, you sometimes get burned because you haven't dealt with resistance, you haven't developed warmth and empathy. But I'm going to, hope that doesn't happen. And because I want to illustrate this technique, we illustrated it a week or two ago, and I just want to give more examples because it's such a great and dynamic technique. And so we'll see if it works, and if it works, fine, and if not, that's okay too. But when you do the feared fantasy, you say to the patient, in this case, Alicia, who's a colleague, not a patient, if the reason you need the feared fantasy technique is because if you were to ask people in the advanced group, do you think I'm making a fool of myself, or do you think I didn't learn anything in the beginners group? Are you looking down on me? They'll say, oh, no, we admire you, we support you. And they would mean it, and you would feel better. And that's what Albert Ellis, the New York psychologist, now passed away, but he was very controversial, very famous. He contributed a lot. He said there's a high-level solution and a low-level solution. In a low-level solution, you feel better because you find out your negative thoughts were not true. So you feel great relief. They love me in the advanced group, and they make mistakes too. We're all here together. They love me. All is cool. But in a low-level solution is you feel better because you get what you want. You find out your negative thoughts are distorted and false. In a high-level solution, you discover that even if your negative thoughts were true, you could still be happy. Now, the only way to do this is, since we can't have you confront this monster, this critical monster in reality, because people would just not say these things, for the most part.
Yeah.
So we're going to go instead invite you into this Alice in Wonderland nightmare world where your worst fears come true.
Okay.
And so we're going to go to the Tuesday group from hell.
Okay.
And in this Tuesday group at Stanford, there are 2 rules, unusual rules. The first rule is if you think people are looking down on you and having bad thoughts about you and judging you, they actually are.
Okay.
And the second rule is they're not at all polite, but they get right up in your face and try to embarrass you and humiliate you and verbalize all these horrible things about you.
Okay.
Now, when one of us will play the group member from hell, and we can get Werner to chime in on this too, and then we'll work on your negative thoughts, Werner. But you can play Alicia or the group member from hell. Which role do you want to? And we'll do role reversals. But what role do you want to start out in?
I'll play myself first.
Yourself, right?
Yeah.
Now, so we're going to start saying these things to you. Now, when you challenge us, you can use one of 2 strategies.
Okay.
And you're turning bright red.
I know. That's a whole nother thing.
Well, that's neat. That's cool.
That's not cool. Okay, keep going.
Published a video.
Yeah, right. Now, you can use the self-defense paradigm. That's where you argue with our criticisms and insist that's not true.
Okay.
The opposite strategy can also sometimes be helpful, sometimes even more helpful. You can defeat a criticism or a negative thought by agreeing with it with a sense of peace or a sense of humor and kind of disarming the critic. Sometimes self-defense works best, sometimes the acceptance paradox works best, and sometimes a combination will work best.
Okay.
But if you're not blowing us out of the water, we'll do role reversals and model it for you. So I'll start out, and why don't we just be David and Werner?
Okay.
But this is the David from hell and the Werner from hell, and so I'm going to just start attacking you with these thoughts that we're having about you. Could I talk to you for a minute, Alicia?
Sure.
It looks to me like if you do any role plays here in this advanced group, you're just going to mess up.
I probably will mess up.
Okay, now who won?
Me, because it's true.
Okay, did you win big or small?
I would say big.
Big or huge?
Huge.
Huge, okay. And tell us how you won huge.
Because, everybody who does role plays, okay, not everybody, people who try role plays do mess up. And so, I probably will mess up because I don't know everything yet.
Yes.
And that's okay.
Okay, good, great. Now we're going to keep attacking you, but you started out very, very strong there.
Okay.
So, Alicia, let me talk to you as well here. I think that you just really didn't learn anything.
That is not true. I did learn a lot in that group, but there's just a lot more to learn also.
Who won?
I did.
Big or small?
Big, but not huge.
Oh, okay. I thought it was huge, but we can do a role reversal and get it up to huge. And that's why you, as a teaching boy, you always want to ask, was it small or big or huge? And if it wasn't huge, do a role reversal. So you be the negative.
Okay.
You can be the Werner, and you can be Alicia, and do the exact one here again.
Okay. So, do I call him Werner or Alicia?
That's Alicia.
Okay. So, Alicia, it seems like you really didn't learn anything over there.
You're right on one level. There are a lot of things that I missed over there, but there are also a lot of things that I picked up on, and I think that'll really help me to take several steps, further in learning the entire process.
That was good.
Okay, who won?
He won.
Big or small?
Big.
Big or huge?
That's a huge, yeah.
Oh, how did he do huge? Because he said pretty much the same as that you said.
I don't know, maybe. Well, because you did say, maybe I missed some things over there, which I didn't really acknowledge before. So I think that was the piece.
Okay, great. Now do a role reversal.
Yeah, so Alicia, you really didn't learn anything over there in that beginners group.
Yeah, you could be right. I definitely probably missed some things over there, but I think overall it laid a good foundation for for learning more in the advanced group.
So who won that?
Me.
Small or big?
Big.
Big or huge?
Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that feel good?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to show this technique again, because it's really kind of a mind blower.
Mm-hmm.
And most people growing up, like in high school, kids will disapprove of me, it'd be so sucky, and then you don't think about it. You keep giving all this power to these imaginary critics, whereas here you meet the monster that you fear the most, and you kind of discover that the monster has no teeth, and it's a form of enlightenment.
Yeah.
And, but coming back to our role play, I'm the David from hell here.
Okay.
Yeah, but Alicia, I think you're just going to make a fool of yourself if you do a role play. I mean, I can see you're even blushing right now.
I will make a fool of myself. It makes it worse when people point it out too. Just so you know. Anyways, I probably will
because
make.
You notice we're not blushing.
I know. I will make a fool of myself, but I'll learn more from it because I'll want to be better next time.
Great. Who won?
Me.
Big or small?
Big.
Big or huge?
Huge.
Huge.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And how did you learn? How did you win huge? Because you're still as red as a tomato.
I know it's not gonna go away.
So how did you win huge then?
Because I just accepting that I will make a fool of myself. I don't know, just that acceptance piece and.
Isn't acceptance awesome?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's really a beautiful thing to grasp. Well, you can go everyone that one.
Here we go.
Okay, Alicia, you're just going to blush, and everyone will know that you really don't know anything.
Yes, that is the worst one. Just because I blush doesn't mean I don't know what I'm talking about. But other people don't know that. Yeah, I don't think I can defeat this one on my own. I might need a role reversal.
Do a role reversal. I thought you were coming pretty close there, but go ahead, do a role reversal. That's Alicia over there.
Okay. Alicia, someone's going to ask you a question and you're going to turn bright red and then they're going to know that you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, not only might I turn bright red, but I might even freeze up. And the anxiety of the moment is something that I want to keep working on and make progress with and eventually get to the place where I feel like I know what I'm talking about.
Okay, who won?
He did.
Big or small?
Big.
Big or huge?
Not huge.
I agree.
Yeah.
So can I take a shot at it? Yeah. And also, this is another teaching point. You have to get permission from your patient. Can I screw up too? And can we go back and forth 4 or 5 times or as many times until we hit this sucker out of the park?
Yeah.
So I'll be the positive Alicia. You be the group member from hell. Remember to stay pretty close to the microphone.
Okay. So, Alicia, I think that in the advanced group, someone's going to ask you a question, you're going to turn bright red, and they're just going to know that you don't know what you're talking about.
Well, that's happening right now. As a matter of fact, I'm turning bright red. But once you get to know me, you'll see that's probably one of my lesser flaws. I have a lot of flaws, but sometimes I don't know what I'm talking about. Often I do know what I'm talking about, and my blushing doesn't have too much to do with whether I know what I'm talking about.
That was really good.
Okay, and how did I do it?
That was huge. Yeah.
What was huge about it?
That you acknowledged the moment right now, also, which was helpful. And saying that, I blush and it doesn't necessarily have to do with what I know or not. It's just a part of me, and there are worse things about me.
Yeah. Isn't that cool? Did you love that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And why is that so helpful?
I don't know. It just puts it in perspective, and it's not... to me, it feels like a big deal, but it's not.
Yeah. And this is also a form of enlightenment. It's called laughing enlightenment. It's one of the Buddhist forms of enlightenment. I don't know, Fabrice, you know a lot about this stuff, and maybe you've heard of this or maybe not, but I understand this is one of the forms of enlightenment, where at the moment of enlightenment you burst into laughter.
Yeah.
Because you see that there's a kind of cosmic joke behind all of your fears.
Yeah.
And it is funny.
Yeah.
And it's fun. But let's try a role reversal, see if you can do it. Could I talk to you for a minute, Alicia?
Yes.
I know you're kind of here, new in the group, and, I can see you blushing a lot. And I just want you to realize that we all know that you don't know anything.
I do.
And when you blush, we realize you don't know anything. Like right now.
Yes, I do blush. You could say it's a part of my personality. Everybody knows that about me. And just because I blush doesn't mean that I necessarily do know something or don't know something. Yeah, and there's a lot of other things about me also. Me blushing is just one part of it, and it doesn't mean that I don't know what I'm talking about.
Who won?
Me.
Big or small?
Big.
Big or huge?
Huge.
Now, let me just suppose I push this further.
Okay.
To be the worst monster from hell.
Mm-hmm.
And suppose I say, well, okay, maybe you do know something, but the fact is you blush and you're insecure. So I reject you, and I don't like you, and I'm better than you.
Yeah. If you think that because I blush, I don't know if I want to be associated with you. Like, I don't know. Like, that's sad.
Who won?
Me, I think. Yeah.
Big or small?
Big.
Big or huge?
Huge.
Yeah. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
To see if that monster attacks you, do you have to worry about it?
No.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
To see that? You take one here and then we'll do yours. But you've been doing so beautifully on this. It's a joy to behold.
Mm-hmm. So Alicia, you're really not advanced enough.
That is true. David is the advanced one. Or none of us are advanced enough. No, I'm not advanced enough, and that's why I'm here, because I feel it already improving my clinical skills, and I would like to keep learning.
So who won that?
Me.
Small or big?
Huge, I would just say huge.
Huge.
Yeah.
Right to huge.
Yeah.
Love that.
Now, before we go on to yours, Werner, I want to just go on to the anti-brush fire technique. And in this one, see, I don't know if you have this fear or not, but often people who fear disapproval are right up there with the fear is, it's going to start spreading.
Mm-hmm.
And people are going to talk about me.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't I be some person in the group, and you're in the group.
Okay.
And I didn't attend Tuesday, let's say, but you attended and you saw this loser, Alicia, see, and you want to kind of gossip to me about her and how she blushes and, how she didn't learn everything in the newbie group and see if you can turn me against her.
Okay.
Then this is the anti-brush fire technique. Okay.
So
how was the group on Tuesday?
Yeah, it was good. You should have seen. The newbies came in, and there was one.
Were there a bunch of them?
There were a bunch of them, like maybe even 20.
Oh, wow. How were they?
They were pretty good. There was one in particular, Alicia, and you can just tell she just turned bright red every time someone talked to her about anything.
Oh, yeah.
And she really didn't learn anything over there, like the worst of the group.
Oh, really? What kind of specific errors was she making that you observed? Or was it just her blushing that turned you off?
It was mostly, when she blushed, you could just tell, obviously she didn't know what she was talking about.
Oh, so because she was blushing, you
Yeah.
concluded she didn't know what she was talking about?
Yeah, definitely.
Have you had bad experience with people who blushed in the past? It sounds like her blushing was pretty upsetting to you.
Yeah, I don't think I've had bad experiences. It's just one of those things you can just tell, like,
oh, really?
why
You
is
think
that
you can
blushing?
judge someone if they're blushing, they don't know anything?
Something like that.
Where'd you get that idea? I know a lot of people who blush. My wife blushed, and I just love her for it.
Just like in school, right? Like when someone calls on somebody and they blush, it's like,
Yeah,
they
they're
don't
embarrassed.
know.
No, they're embarrassed.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that some of the smartest kids in our class blushed like crazy, and then
That's
they got
true.
all 800s on the
you're
SATs.
right.
How did you do on the SATs?
I don't remember. Okay, fine. So maybe she knew more.
Most of the people who come into the group are pretty nervous.
That is true, but they don't show it. Like, why was she showing it so much?
Maybe she's more uninhibited, more open. Do you hide your feelings typically?
I'm actually very open.
So, anyway, who's winning here?
Yeah, you're winning.
And what, big or small?
Big.
Big or huge?
Huge.
Huge. And what is the point? What?
It just seems like you're very gently, but just like challenging. I don't know.
Yeah, the idea is that it isn't terribly. There are times people will gossip and judge others,
Yeah.
but it isn't terribly likely.
Yeah.
And most of the time, if someone's trying to badmouth you,
Yeah.
they'll start to run into resistance.
Right.
It is not a fact of the universe that
Yeah.
if you screw up, most people don't even give a damn.
Yeah.
So there was someone in the group. Yeah. Well, so what?
Yeah.
It was blushing.
And I like it that you were kind of poking fun and kind of being
Yeah.
humorous about it because
Yeah.
it helped. Yeah.
So that's the anti-brush fire technique.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, thank you. Well, that was give me a high five. Thank you. That was terrific.
I will calm down eventually.
Well, you don't have to calm down. Trying to calm down is a mistake. Then your emotions become your enemy. But that's for another podcast.
Okay.
So let's take a look at yours, Werner, and tell us your situation. Then we'll do another quick feared fantasy, and then we're probably home free, and you can do your, as always, magnificent commentary and Q&A at the end, which is I always love that.
So I'm after several months of being here in the advanced group I'm going to actually go to work at the institute and
You're Feeling Good Institute, Mountain View.
Yes, that's right, and so I'm coming up against having to be a real therapist, and
Which you haven't done a lot of in your life.
that's what especially not in the last few years, right?
Yeah.
And so I just have a lot of negative thoughts that are coming into play for me, and I could start blushing as well.
I wish you would.
So that's and I'm struggling with that a bit and questioning my own competency and confronting that.
And so let's take a look at your thoughts, but I'd also like to point out, because I always think the truth shall make you free. Mm-hmm. And so we'd have to say maybe Werner's getting over his head to go to the Feeling Good Institute to start working a certain number of hours a week seeing real patients after not having been a therapist for many years and having been here in the Tuesday group for quite a few months and quite a few Tuesday hikes. And the bottom line fact of it is that you, Werner, are tremendously skillful at team therapy. You are a beginner in the sense that you're going to be seeing your first patients in a long time. But the people who are listening to this podcast have to know that Werner is very strong, very, 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 very compassionate. Now, the facts with someone else could be different, then you'd use a different strategy for treating that person.
Yeah, and if I could just add, and especially using the team structure and model, that piece of it is especially challenging. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And so your negative thoughts are, I won't succeed. I should know so much more than I do, and the belief in these is 85 and 90%. I won't do a good job. I'll develop a bad reputation, and no one will want to work with me. They'll judge me, and they'll think that I'm not that competent. So we're going to do a mixture of externalization of voices and feared fantasy. So sometimes we will talk as your negative thoughts, and sometimes we'll talk as the colleagues from hell, and see if you can defeat us. And so do you want to kick us off? All you have to do, Alicia, is put these in the second person you, and see if Werner can defeat us.
Okay. So,
And again, we're skipping empathy, we're skipping agenda setting.
Right. Okay. So, Werner, you're not going to succeed.
Well, it's a big challenge for me, and I've been growing and learning over the past few months, and I'm sure there are going to be some moments where I'm not as successful as I really want to be, and but I will continue to keep growing and learning.
Okay, who won that?
I did.
Big or small?
Big.
Big or huge?
I think huge.
Okay.
And that was great.
Yeah.
And then when it's huge, you can just go on to the next one. Mm-hmm. But that may be true, Werner. But you should know so much more than you do, and don't you forget it.
Yeah, I probably should know more than I do.
So who won? Who won?
I think I did.
Yeah, big or small?
Big.
Big or huge? Huge, right.
Yeah.
And how did you win huge? Because it was huge.
Yeah, because there isn't a moment when I really probably should know more, and so
There's that Buddhist laughter again.
there it is.
So it's laughing enlightenment.
Yeah.
You've got to experience it to understand it.
Right.
But I'm hopeful that listening to it, people will get it as well. And what we're talking about here is the acceptance paradox, that the suffering doesn't come because of our shortcomings, but these should statements that I'm supposed to be so much greater than I am, and we make ourselves miserable in our lives, always beating up on ourselves and trying to become better and better all the time. And enlightenment is like turning around and going the opposite direction and accepting that you are kind of flawed and average, that we're all kind of average and below par. And the odd thing is, once you accept yourself as you are, it's the greatest change a human being can make. That's a paradox. Mm-hmm. And it's freeing, mm-hmm. and then you become much more powerful and effective with your clients. But so I think it's your turn, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but you're not going to do a good job.
I don't disagree that there are going to be times when I wouldn't want to do a better job, but I think again I'll keep learning and I'll keep growing and keep doing a better job each time.
Okay, who won?
I did.
Big or small?
Big.
Big or huge? Okay, huge.
Huge, great. And you could add to that if you wanted. I'll be getting feedback from my clients every session. Mm-hmm. About how their moods change and how they rated me on empathy and helpfulness. And there'll be plenty of times when I'll be marked down or criticized, and that'll be something I can talk to my clients about the next week, and that can often deepen the therapeutic relationship. Mm-hmm. Those are opportunities for me to learn and grow, and for my clients to learn and grow too. How's that?
Yeah. Yes.
Now, I'm going to be the negative again here,
okay.
but Werner, just don't you forget that you're going to develop a bad reputation and no one will want to work with you. Mm. Don't you forget it.
Yeah.
There's a lot at risk here.
Yeah.
A lot at risk.
Could you emphasize that again? That's a tough one for me. Okay. I definitely want to do a good job, and there will be times that I fail. And if others judge me based on that and define my reputation on my growth process, then maybe I don't want to be associated with those individuals. My goal is to keep growing and keep learning, and especially learn from my failures.
It was awesome. Who won?
I did.
Big or small?
Huge.
Yeah. And for an incompetent loser here, you're certainly doing rather well, rather quickly. It's neat to see the power coming out of you. Let's just switch quickly now to feared fantasy.
Okay.
And now we're the colleagues from hell.
Okay.
Yes.
And could I talk to you for a minute, Werner?
Yeah, if you have to.
Yes, well, it's a source of pleasure and joy for me to just remind you that I judge you, and I think that you're not competent.
You're right. There are moments when I'm not as competent as I would like to be, and again, I'm just going to keep working through this and grow and become more skilled and effective.
That's great, and it's probably huge. But let's do a role reversal, because there's a technique that I've mentioned on podcasts. I mention it in group all the time. I mention it in hikes constantly, and people keep ignoring it. It's called "Let's Be Specific," and it's really, really killer. Your response was excellent, but let me show you how this would work.
Yeah,
you be the colleague from hell.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna really see how incompetent you are, and I'm just going to judge you around that. And
well, that's good. I've heard you're a bit of a giant in therapy yourself, and I guess it's a chance for me to learn from you. Can you think of specific things you've seen me do in role plays or with real patients that seemed like errors, things I could learn and change and correct? Is it my empathy skills? My agenda setting skills, my use of externalization of voices. What specifically have you seen?
Yeah.
Who won?
You did.
Big or small?
Huge.
Huge. And how did I win huge?
You took it out of the broad sense that this moment defines all of you and all of who you are, and made it a very specific event.
And this is will be a theme in my new book, among many other themes, but that our suffering comes from overgeneralization and labeling, thinking we have a self that's not good enough. Mm-hmm. When people say, I judge you, you're not competent, we get all upset because, our self isn't good enough, and it seems impossible to correct a defective self. And when you use let's be specific, you come down to say, what's specific? I make errors all the time, and these are chances for me to grow. Which therapy errors have you observed in me? I'd love to pick your brain. What a great chance for me to learn. And then all of a sudden the suffering disappears. Let's see if you can do it now.
Okay.
Or did you already do it? I can't even remember.
I don't think so.
Okay. No. Werner, Alicia and I want you to know that we judge you, and we believe that because you're just not competent. We're tremendous, Alicia and me, and but you're not competent. We judge you. We judge you very severely.
Yes, we do.
Both David, you and Alicia are just extremely reputable clinicians, and you're really giants in the field, and there are times when I definitely fail and question whether or not I've done something that's competent and helpful. And I'd love to learn from you. Can you identify something specific for me where I've really missed the boat?
That's huge. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just you blew us out of the water. How did it feel to you?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
So that's it, and we covered a lot of territory fast. I want to thank both of you for just really illuminating. I want to illuminate these techniques of acceptance and feared fantasy and externalization of voices. And boy, my cup runneth over. Why don't you wrap this up for us and do a little Q&A, Fabrice, and tell us what happened tonight.
So I was very interested to see the techniques you demonstrated. I'd like to ask Werner a question, since this is still fresh in my mind. Could you tell Werner whether David and Alicia were acting as your negative voice, or whether they were acting as the colleagues from Hale? In other words, were they doing externalization of voices or feared fantasy? Could you tell the difference?
To me, it almost felt like both in some ways.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And because I was asking myself that question. Maybe, David, you have a comment on this.
Well, we started out on externalization of voices and then flipped over to feared fantasy. And feared fantasy is just a more extreme technique.
But when did the flip over happen?
After, when we were telling him his thoughts, you'll develop a bad reputation, no one will want to work with you, that's still externalization of voices because that's his thought. We were the negative Werner. Yeah. When I flipped over to, he had the thought they'll judge me and think that I'm not competent, I said, we'll be the colleagues from hell. And we became that feared person, and we said, we judge you, and we've decided we think you're not competent. And then he's talking to an actual external critic. Of course, who is that external critic? Mm-hmm. It's just
my negative beliefs.
Projection of your own thoughts about yourself. But it's just a more powerful technique even than externalization of voices.
Mm-hmm. Now, the other thing is, I know that we didn't do the empathy and agenda setting, so we're this is not a complete session.
No.
So we just applied one technique, but you have some very willing victims here.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So I want to check with Alicia and Werner. Did you feel like there was a shift after David applied his magic?
Yeah, I did. I feel like I'm going to drive home tonight and be like, yeah, you know what? Like, it is okay. I blush. Who cares? You know, a little bit deeper. I'm sure.
In fact, and it's an assignment next week.
Okay.
When you come in, we introduce.
Oh,
I want you to stand up and just say, I want you to know that I blush tremendously, and I plan to blush frequently here in the group.
Oh, man.
Will you do that?
That would be a shame attacking
That's a
exercise.
shame attacking exercise. Yeah, that's your
I feel
assignment.
it's happening again.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure empathy probably, could have, made it even better. But no, I do feel like that helped a lot.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank
But
you.
what's misleading about the podcast is that therapists who are listening will think they can jump in with techniques and throw them at their patients and get these magical changes. And I kind of know Werner, and I kind of, talked to Alicia a little and got a feel that she was motivated and willing to do it. So we lucked out. But in general, in a real therapy session,
you can't do that.
you don't want to skip those other steps.
How about you, Werner? How did that feel for you?
Repeat the question.
So
Did it feel real?
David and Alicia threw these techniques at you, and did you feel within yourself that this produced some kind of inner change, inner shift?
Yeah, absolutely. I just expressing the sense of inadequacy and putting it out there, and then confronting the fear that's associated with it, really creates the shift for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. David, you said something in the beginning that I thought was crucial, because this gets overlooked often, and I had not heard it put in these terms. You call that, high level versus low level solutions.
Yeah.
Because I sometimes have some of my clients who using the straightforward technique change their thoughts into, I'll fix it. I'll solve that problem eventually. It'll get better.
Yeah.
And I always tell them, if you do this, you're acknowledging that there's a problem.
Yeah.
When in fact, there probably isn't one. So why don't we find how seeing this as a problem is a fallacy?
Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. But it's a powerful thing, the acceptance paradox, that you see, our enlightenment, our joy, the magic of life comes from accepting your humanness. See, we're just hanging out here together, and it's really fun. And I really like you, Werner, and I like you, Fabrice, and I like you, Alicia, and we're all just hanging out and doing our thing, and we're not trying to be special or something like that. And you're kind of flawed. Like, let's see if you can bring on that red.
It's getting harder and harder.
Yeah. And I'm kind of flawed, and I think, Fabrice, you've got some flaws, and you've got some flaws, and
Plenty, yeah.
and when you accept your flaws, like the heavens open up. But you don't want to accept your flaws because you think, I've got to be so special, and life will be so great if I'm special. And you hear that in advertising. Get a Lexus, experience the thrill of perfection. Or, they're all, and man, if only I could be a Lexus, I'd be one of the beautiful people, and I'd have perfection, and I'd be so happy. And we're kids trying to, being on the merry-go-round, trying to find that brass ring that you never find. And when you kind of accept, I guess I'm kind of an aluminum ring guy. and you kind of accept how flawed you are. It's just the most wonderful thing in the world. I should probably shut up. I know we've got to go, but the other day, we have this new cat we adopted, Miss Misty, and I'm probably repeating myself. I'm so old and senile, but I went on a Sunday hike. I had bronchitis, and I was able to make about a 2.5-hour hike, and I didn't go out to eat after because I want to save energy for my 3 p.m. podcast on Sunday. So I ate some lunch at home and got on bed and watched TV and fell asleep, and which is great. And then I woke up and I found that the little Miss Misty, our new little kitty, had climbed up on my lap, and she was sleeping on my lap. And she trusts my wife. She's just beginning to trust me. And then she rolled off my legs onto the bed upside down, and she put her arms up like this on her back and her legs out, showing me her belly, and I started stroking her belly. And then I would leave my hand there, and she'd doze off, and I'd doze off. And then I'd wake up, my hand was still there, and I'd pet her some more. And you know what purring is like, but do you know what squeaking is like? That's when the purring turns into squeaking.
Oh.
It's the most beautiful little thing. And for 40 minutes, I was just petting her, and she was purring and squeaking, and she didn't move. And it just doesn't get any better than that. And but she's just an average little cat that was found abandoned by the road, 3.5 weeks old. Her mother had probably been killed. Someone found her in a rainstorm. Moody Road is pretty busy. And she was just sitting there, and they found her and picked her up and took her home. And then they gave her to us after they saw that we'd lost Obi.
Yeah.
But it's just, it's just like we're doing that right now. I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense. Can you say what I'm trying to say, Fabrice?
Let me take a shot at it. Misty is just being herself.
Yeah.
She doesn't think, I have flaws and I'm not
a
big enough cat or a good enough cat or black or white enough cat.
Yeah.
She's just being Misty, right?
Yeah.
And we tend to mess that simplicity up by trying to be something and watch out for our flaws, and we're not being ourselves.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful interpretation.
Yeah.
Right. Did I get this right?
Yeah. It's really neat. It's really a beautiful thing. But you have to experience it, and you can hear little stories like this and be inspired, but it won't do it for you. But these exercises can bring you to enlightenment. You both experienced some enlightenment tonight, and that's what we're trying to do in team. Is the same as Buddhists have been doing, or people with religions, to bring people to that state of joy. But we're using secular methods rather than meditation or prayer or this or that religion. But it's still trying to bring people to a state of intense joy and enlightenment and self-acceptance. And it's trying to get people to wake up, too, because we're in trances all the time. The trance of, I'm not good enough. I've got to get more. I've got to be more. I'm not good enough. That's like a hypnotic trance. And like the therapist's job is to try to awake the patient from the hypnotic trance and to suddenly realize how great life is. But people cling so stubbornly to that perfectionism, thinking, I don't want to settle for second rate. Well, I'm not offering you to settle for second rate. You're not even second rate. We're going to lower our standards way below that.
On these good words, thank you, David. Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alicia. Thanks, Fabrice. Thanks, Werner.
This has been another episode of the Feeling Good podcast. For more information, visit Dr. Burns' website at feelinggood.com, where you will find the show notes for this podcast under the blog page, and where you can leave your comments and questions. The website has an abundance of resources for therapists as well as non-therapists, including books, workshops, a list of online training groups around the world, and much more. Theme music is Gypsy Jazz in Paris, 1935, composed and performed by Brett Van Donsel. I am your host, Fabrice Nye, and I invite you to join us next time for another episode of the Feeling Good podcast.